Hey there, everyone. You might be wondering why this particular conflict has persisted for so long. Why does it seem that every few years, the world's attention returns to this sliver of land? And more importantly, why does this issue affect people not only in the region but all over the world? It's a question that has puzzled many and continues to be a focal point of international discourse. Is it really just a fight over land? Or is there something deeper, centuries of history, religion, and identity, all clashing in ways that go beyond what we see on the news? Let's unravel these questions together, because understanding this conflict could change how you see a lot of what's happening in the world today. It's a complex tapestry woven with threads of ancient history and modern politics. This conflict has been raging for what feels like forever, and frankly, it's exhausting. The toll it takes on the people living there is unimaginable. But here's the thing, it's also incredibly important. The stakes are high, and the implications are far-reaching. We're talking about the lives of millions of people, generations caught in a cycle of violence and mistrust. These are real lives, real families, and real futures at stake. So get ready, because we're about to unpack centuries of history, politics, and, dare I say, hope. It's a journey through time that will help us understand the present. Yeah, hope. Because even in the darkest of times, there's always a glimmer, right? Hope is what keeps people going, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Now, to understand this whole mess, we gotta travel back in time, way back. We're talking ancient empires, religious texts, and enough historical baggage to fill a cargo plane. This land we now call Israel and Palestine, it's been fought over for millennia. It's like the world's oldest timeshare, but instead of arguing over who gets the beachfront condo, they're fighting over, well, everything. The stakes are incredibly high and the emotions run deep. Why? Well, for starters, this little patch of land is considered holy by three major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It's a spiritual epicenter that holds profound significance for billions of people around the globe. Talk about awkward family dinners. Imagine trying to share a space that holds such deep, conflicting significance for so many. Add to that centuries of conquest, colonialism, and political maneuvering, and you've got a recipe for, well, disaster. The layers of history and politics are so intertwined that untangling them seems almost impossible. But hold on, it's not all doom and gloom. There have been moments of hope, glimmers of peace, and even some pretty impressive peace talks. These moments remind us that peace is possible, even if it seems elusive. Sadly, those talks tend to go about as well as a vegan at a barbecue festival. The challenges are immense, and the setbacks are frequent. So stick with me, guys. We're gonna break this down, step by step, and hopefully, by the end of it, you'll have a better understanding of why this conflict is so damn important and why finding a solution is so hard, over a pit of angry badgers. But hey, even if we don't solve the whole thing, at least we'll be more informed, right? And who knows, maybe, just maybe, understanding the roots of this conflict will help us all be a bit more empathetic and informed, because at the end of the day, it's not just about politics or land, it's about people, their lives, and their futures. And if we can grasp that, then perhaps we can start to see the humanity behind the headlines. So, let's discuss, and maybe we'll find a bit of hope and understanding along the way. Because in the end, understanding and empathy are the first steps toward any meaningful resolution. All right, history buffs, get ready to geek out. To understand the roots of this conflict, we gotta rewind the clock a few thousand years, like way back when people thought the earth was flat and Instagram influencers were just called philosophers. We're talking about a time when this land was ruled by ancient Israelites who, according to the Hebrew Bible, established a kingdom there. Think King David, King Solomon, the whole shebang. This period is super important for Jewish history and identity, kinda like how Americans are obsessed with the Founding Fathers. It's their origin story, their claim to the land. But here's the thing about history. It's messy, like really messy. Because while the Israelites were busy building their kingdom, other empires were like, hey, that land looks nice, let's conquer it. Cue the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, and eventually the Romans. It was like a historical game of King of the Hill, but with more togas and fewer participation trophies. Each empire left its mark on the land and its people, creating a complex tapestry of cultures and religions. And you know what happens when you have a bunch of different groups claiming the same piece of land? Yeah, it ain't pretty. But hey, we're just getting started. We haven't even gotten to the Romans yet, and trust me, those guys were a whole other level of complicated. The Romans were all about expansion, and they saw this land as a prime piece of real estate. They brought their architecture, their culture, and their coins, leaving a lasting impact. but the local Jewish population wasn't too thrilled about Roman rule, leading to revolts and uprisings. One of the most significant events was the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, a devastating blow to Jewish society. This led to the Jewish diaspora, where many Jews were scattered across different parts of the world. Meanwhile, Christianity was emerging, and the land became significant for Christians as well. Fast forward a few centuries, and the Byzantine Empire took control, adding another layer to the region's complex history. Then came the Islamic Caliphates, bringing advancements in science, culture, and trade. The Crusades added even more conflict as European Christians sought to reclaim the Holy Land. Eventually, the Ottoman Empire took over, ruling the land for several centuries. Under Ottoman rule, the region saw a mix of cultures and religions coexisting, albeit not always peacefully. World War I marked the end of Ottoman control, and the British took over under the Mandate system. The Balfour Declaration of 1917 promised a homeland for the Jewish people, setting the stage for future conflicts. Jewish immigration to Palestine increased, leading to tensions with the Arab population. The British struggled to maintain order, and the region became a hotbed of unrest. After World War II, the United Nations proposed a partition plan to create separate Jewish and Arab states. In 1948, Israel declared independence, leading to the First Arab-Israeli War. The war resulted in significant loss of life and the displacement of many Palestinians. And that's just the beginning of the modern conflict, which continues to this day. All right, let's fast forward a bit, past the fall of the Roman Empire and the rise of Christianity. This period was marked by significant upheaval and transformation, setting the stage for the next major shift in power. The Roman Empire's decline left a power vacuum that would soon be filled by new and emerging forces. We're now entering the 7th century AD, and a new force is sweeping across the Middle East: Islam. This new religion, founded by the Prophet Muhammad, quickly gained followers and momentum. The Arabian Peninsula, once a collection of warring tribes, began to unify under the banner of Islam. Now, Islam has deep roots in this region, with Jerusalem being considered its third holiest city after Mecca and Medina. The city holds immense religious significance for Muslims worldwide. It became a focal point for Islamic culture and spirituality, drawing pilgrims and scholars alike. And guess what? The Islamic Caliphates, those early Muslim empires, were pretty good at conquering stuff. They expanded rapidly, bringing vast territories under their control. Their influence spread from the Arabian Peninsula to North Africa, Spain, and parts of Asia. In fact, they conquered a whole lot of stuff, including the land we're talking about. Their military prowess and strategic acumen were unmatched at the time. The Caliphates established a vast and diverse empire, fostering trade, science, and culture. This period saw the construction of some of Islam's most iconic landmarks in Jerusalem, like the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. These structures are not just architectural marvels, but also symbols of faith. They stand as testaments to the artistic and engineering skills of the time. These beautiful buildings became symbols of Islamic faith and power in the region. They attracted pilgrims and scholars, becoming centers of learning and devotion. The Dome of the Rock in particular is renowned for its stunning architecture and intricate mosaics. But the Caliphates weren't the only ones vying for control. The region was a hotbed of conflict and competition. Various factions and empires sought to assert their dominance, leading to a complex and ever-changing political landscape. Remember those Romans? Well, they were long gone, but their successors, the Byzantine Empire, weren't too keen on sharing their turf. They fought fiercely to maintain their hold on the region. The Byzantines were determined to preserve their influence and protect their territories. This led to centuries of back-and-forth fighting between Muslims and Christians for control of the Holy Land, culminating in the Crusades. These were a series of religious wars with profound consequences. The Crusades left a lasting impact on the region, shaping its history and relations between different cultures. Yeah, the Crusades. Not exactly humanity's finest hour, they were marked by brutality and a complex interplay of religious and political motives. The Crusaders sought to reclaim Jerusalem and other holy sites, leading to intense and often bloody conflicts. Fast forward a few more centuries and the Ottoman Empire enters the chat. They were a formidable force, reshaping the political landscape of the region. The Ottomans brought a new era of governance and cultural development. They ruled over a vast empire that stretched from North Africa to the Middle East and even into Europe. Their influence was far-reaching and enduring. The Ottomans established a sophisticated administrative system and promoted the arts and sciences. They controlled the land for centuries, bringing a period of relative stability, at least for a while. Their administrative and cultural achievements were significant. The Ottomans left a lasting legacy in architecture, law, and culture. But as with all empires, the Ottomans eventually began to crumble. Internal strife and external pressures took their toll. The empire faced numerous challenges, including economic difficulties and military defeats. And as they weakened, new powers emerged, eager to fill the void. The geopolitical landscape was once again in flux. Various groups and nations sought to capitalize on the Ottomans' decline. Enter the Europeans, stage left, with their fancy hats and even fancier ideas about colonialism. They saw opportunities for expansion and control. European powers began to carve up the region, imposing their own systems of governance and exploiting its resources. And trust me, things were about to get a whole lot more complicated. The legacy of these colonial ambitions would shape the region for centuries to come. The impact of European colonialism is still felt today, influencing the political and social dynamics of the Middle East. Today, Jerusalem stands as a testament to its complex history, a city where the echoes of past empires and conflicts still resonate. The layers of history are visible in its streets, buildings, and the lives of its people. The story of Jerusalem is far from over, and its significance continues to evolve in the modern era. Okay, so far, we've covered ancient empires, religious conquests, and enough historical baggage to make your head spin. But now, we're entering the 19th century, and things are about to get really interesting. Why? Because a new idea is starting to take root: Zionism. Now, Zionism is a complex movement with a long and frankly controversial history. But at its core, it's the belief that the Jewish people have a right to a homeland in their ancient land of Israel. Think about it. For centuries, Jews had been scattered around the world, often facing persecution and discrimination. They were strangers in strange lands, longing for a place to call their own. Zionism offered them that hope, a dream of returning to their historical roots and creating a Jewish state. Of course, there was one tiny problem: the land was already inhabited. At this point, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, and while it wasn't exactly a bustling metropolis, people were living there, mostly Arabs who had been there for centuries. So, you can see where this is going, right? Two groups, both with legitimate claims to the same piece of land, both with dreams of a better future. It's a classic recipe for conflict. And as if things weren't complicated enough, a new player was about to enter the game, a player who would ultimately hold all the cards: Great Britain. The British Empire, with its global reach and colonial ambitions, saw Palestine as a strategic asset. During World War I, the British made conflicting promises to both Jews and Arabs, fueling tensions even further. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration announced British support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, while also promising to protect the rights of existing non-Jewish communities. This dual promise set the stage for decades of conflict as both Jews and Arabs felt betrayed and emboldened by British actions. The British Mandate period saw increasing violence and unrest, with both sides vying for control and recognition. Jewish and Arab militias formed, each side preparing for the inevitable struggle over the land they both claimed as their own. By the end of World War II, the situation had reached a boiling point, leading to the 1947 UN Partition Plan, which proposed dividing Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. The plan was accepted by the Jews, but rejected by the Arabs, leading to the declaration of the State of Israel in 1948 and the subsequent Arab-Israeli War. The war resulted in significant loss of life and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, setting the stage for the ongoing conflict we see today. Despite numerous attempts at peace, the seeds of a new nation planted in the 19th century have grown into a complex and deeply rooted conflict that continues to shape the region. And so the story of Israel and Palestine is one of hope, struggle, and an enduring quest for a place to call home. All right, everyone, things are about to get really messy. World War I just wrapped up, the Ottoman Empire is on its last legs, and the Middle East is up for grabs. The region is in a state of flux, with various powers eyeing the spoils. Enter Great Britain, the reigning superpower of the day, with a knack for making promises it couldn't keep. They were eager to expand their influence and control in the region. See, during the war, the Brits made a bunch of conflicting promises to different groups in the Middle East, kind of like a politician on the campaign trail. They were trying to secure as much support as possible regardless of the consequences. They promised Arab leaders independence if they helped fight the Ottomans. This was a significant promise as it gave hope to many Arab leaders and their followers. But at the same time, they were also making eyes at the Zionist movement, promising them support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. This was a strategic move to gain favor with influential Zionist leaders. Talk about playing both sides. The British were trying to keep everyone happy, but it was a recipe for disaster. The British were walking a tightrope, and it was only a matter of time before things unraveled. The conflicting promises were bound to create tension and conflict. In 1917, the Brits dropped a bombshell, the Balfour Declaration. This was a pivotal moment in the history of the Middle East. This short but oh-so-significant document basically said, "Yeah, we support the establishment of a Jewish national home in Palestine." It was a game changer. Now, the declaration was intentionally vague, never actually saying state or specifying what that national home would look like. This ambiguity left a lot of room for interpretation and conflict. But it was enough to give the Zionist movement a huge boost and set the stage for decades of conflict. The Zionists saw it as a green light for their aspirations. Of course, the Palestinians weren't exactly thrilled about this whole national home business. They felt their own aspirations for independence were being sidelined. They felt betrayed by the Brits, who had promised them independence. The sense of betrayal was deep and widespread. The Palestinians were left feeling shortchanged. The frustration and disappointment were palpable. So, there you have it. The stage was set for a showdown. The conflicting promises and rising tensions were a powder keg waiting to explode. The Zionists were determined to create a Jewish state, the Palestinians were determined to resist, and the British were stuck in the middle trying to juggle their conflicting promises like a clown at a birthday party. The situation was becoming increasingly untenable, and as you can imagine, things were about to get a whole lot more complicated. The British Mandate period was marked by increasing tensions and violence, with both sides feeling betrayed and desperate. The British, trying to maintain control, found themselves in an impossible situation, unable to satisfy either side. This period laid the groundwork for the ongoing conflict that continues to shape the region to this day. The legacy of these broken promises is still felt a century later as the struggle for land, identity, and sovereignty persists. The repercussions of these decisions echo through history, influencing the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East even now. The British Mandate and the Balfour Declaration were pivotal moments that set the stage for a century of conflict. Understanding this history is crucial to grasping the complexities of the Israel-Palestine conflict today.